Who in the world is this guy? I mean, his name tag says Mel Dorado. His artwork shows what looks to be Mel Dorado, but I've got Mel Dorado right here, and I'm just not seeing the resemblance. But according to Mattel, this really is Mel Dorado, or at least a new variant of him that they released in 2022. But anyways, welcome on back to the Cars Garage, everyone. Yeah, I was completely shocked when I first saw this new Mel Dorado. I was happy at first because, you know, nice to see him back, but then I started looking at him, and I'm like, no, something's not right here. He's completely yellow. He looks like a mustard color. Like, no, this is not what Mel Dorado should look like. So I don't know how they came up with this color, why they even changed it in the first place, but it's pretty bad. This is one of the worst Thailand-made variants, without a doubt, by far. And I know Mattel, they have, you know, changed colors of cars many, many times before. Nothing new. They've changed Holly Schiffwell's color like 5 times, I think. They even rescale cars a lot, like with Fred. They rescaled him 3 times. And ironically, in 2022, they actually finally got Holly Schiffwell's color right, and they got Fred's model right. But, of course, they had to screw up on something, so they had to screw up on Mel Dorado and just completely butcher his color. I don't know why he's yellow, but yeah, well, that's just a new Thailand-made variant. Honestly, I already had the original that looks perfect, so I guess I'm not all that mad about it. It's nice to have a car that actually looks really different. I like when Thailand-made variants do look, you know, exotic looking and very different from the original counterparts, but, you know, I like when they're improvements, and I wouldn't say this is an improvement. Definitely doesn't look very accurate to the original Mel Dorado, but he is, nonetheless, still kind of cool looking, I must say, in the yellow color. Interesting, but anyways, on the back, as seen in Cars 2, of course, that is where he appeared in. He had his own talk show in the movie, but we'll talk more about his character once we get him open. A lot of other nice cars, a lot of nice re-releases, like Wasabi Melt Mater, Ramon Green, I don't know why he's called that, he should be called Artist Ramon, Chaisaki, Lee Race, who was the first Chase to be ever re-released, Sarge, of course, Otis, pretty rare re-release from this year, or last year now, 2022, Francesco Bernoulli, of course, who was also a little hard to find, but I don't really know why, because he's re-released pretty much every year. Have the Mattel Empowering the Next Generation Through Play logo down there, which they continue to put on the back of packagings. I don't know why, ever since 2021 they started with that, but yeah, it's nice to see his artwork back. He's a really nice inclusion to the year, the 2022 mainline, but I just don't like how he turned out. It's just not what we were expecting, that's for sure, but like I said, not horrible to get a new variant, it just doesn't look accurate, of course. And if this is your only Mel Dorado, then, you know, that would be a bit upsetting for sure, because he just doesn't look like Mel Dorado. But anyways, this guy was first released and only ever released in 2022 Singles Case H, which included a lot of other great cars. That was really the first case of the entire year that really felt like a worthy case. Like, it actually had some really cool re-releases. It even had a new car, which was Keith Cone, the burgundy van, who I actually have way up there in the corner hanging on the wall. Race Damage the King, which is just absolutely insane. How can you compete with Damage the King? Awesome re-release. And it made for a great new Thailand-made variant as well. And then also, like you saw in the back there, Lee Race was new to the year. First Chase to be re-released. Also Brad Windmiller, new variant. So there was a lot going for Case H, for sure. I feel like Mel Dorado, he would have been a nice inclusion, but they kind of just butchered him so bad that it kind of maybe brought the hype of the case down just a bit. But still, a nice inclusion. So without any further ado, let's get the old Mel and Miles Axlerod out of the way, and we'll take a closer look at this monstrosity that is somehow Mel Dorado. Alright, so here is Mel Dorado, all out of his packaging, and there is no denying it, he is a straight-up yellow Mel Dorado. And I'm not the biggest fan of this new Thailand variant, I'm really not. He doesn't look like himself, he does not look like the character, even his expression. They did change it, but I'm not the biggest fan of that either. It just doesn't really even, I don't know, it just doesn't really look like him. Something about it, his expression, and then mixed with the yellow, does not look like the character Mel Dorado that I know from Cars 2. But either way, he does have still a few good attributes to him. One of them being he is actually a real-life model of car. He's a 1967 Cadillac Eldorado, hence his name. And, you know, it's always nice to see that. Brings a little bit of realism into the World of Cars franchise. But But, you know, there's really no Cadillac logo on them, so I don't think. Maybe there is on the back, actually. Yeah, I guess there is, the old logo. Not on the front, though. They kind of missed out on that. See where his hood ornament is right there? That should technically be the Cadillac logo, the older style one, where it's almost like two lines like going downwards into each other, kind of like a V shape, I guess. I think that's what it's supposed to be, but unfortunately, they did not put it on the diecast here, which is understandable. It would be pretty small, but they actually made it like a separate plastic piece, it looks like, kind of like the mirrors, which is alright. It does look nice. Silvery, a little plasticky looking, but not too bad. I really love this model, though. It's nice to see it back, and there are actually 3 cars in the world of cars that share this pretty similar model, I guess. Well, technically, Mel Dorado is the only one that has this particular one, but Tex Dinoco is a very similar model. Now this one, like, it points out in the hood there. Very, very classic. All Cadillacs have that. All Chevy cars, really, in general, I think, have that, which is cool. Nice to see. We'll get the old Mel Dorado out of here for now. More attention on the new one, even though I'd like to focus on the old one, because that's Mel Dorado to me. This is not. This is some kind of weird monster Mel Dorado. I'm not the biggest fan, but either way, he is actually a brand new mold of diecast, obviously, because he is a new Thailand variant, and it seems like Mattel was trying to cheap out, and they added some extra plastic. This whole white part here, like the tarp in the back, a lot of old cars had this. Mattel decided that can't be metal, that has to be plastic now, so you can feel it. Definitely plastic. I mean, it doesn't really look that out of place, but it's not perfect. This whole front grille and mount section here, all the headlights, everything on the front, really. All the gray you see there, that is all plastic as well. And that wasn't like that before on the old Mel, so they definitely added some extra plastic to this car, which is always unfortunate to see. I never like when they add plastic. I like when they add metal, like they did with the Thailand-made. Very long car, though. It is cool to see, because a lot of the newer, more modern cars aren't all that long, except for the next gens. I suppose they are kind of long, but not like this. Like, look how far it extends after the back tire there. Very, like a very, not very curved car. Very, like, sharp angles on all the edges and everything. I really like it. Something we don't see all that often anymore on modern cars. And you can see over the wheel wells here, this one's like lowered, kind of like Doc's. Not as much, not as low as Doc's. Like Doc, you can't even see his back tire. You can definitely see Mel's, but just not as much as the front. Very squared off though, I like it. You know, if I didn't know what Mel looked like in the movie, and I didn't see his artwork, then I wouldn't really care. I think this is a cool color. It looks good on this car. I mean, it doesn't look bad. But this is supposed to be Mel Dorado, and it just doesn't look like him. So I think that's where we go wrong here, Mattel. Is that they royally screwed up this character. He doesn't even look like himself, really, anymore. He does have nice tires, nice rims, as you can see. Very slim white wall, kind of like a trim to the tire, which is kind of cool. Very flat rims in the middle, not much detail going on, but you can see the axle in the middle. So I never like when they show the axle because I don't think it's accurate. Shouldn't be able to see the axle, but obviously it's just cheaper for Mattel to do that, I suppose. Got a nice little amber turning light here on the side. Nice silver trim, big silver line on the side there. And silver door handles there, of course. Silver on the back by his taillights here. I don't really think these are his taillights right here. I think that's supposed to be like the turning signal once again. These are his main taillights right here. Very rectangular, very long. They almost connect, but the license plate kind of separates them. And he does have that classic fishbowl license plate. That is what it says. A little hard to make out, but you can kind of see. I don't know what it says on top, though. And there's that Cadillac logo. Like I said, nice silver. That is not the newer, like the more modern Cadillac logo that I'm used to seeing, so they definitely changed it over the years. This is from 1967, so about 5 decades ago or so. Makes sense that they would change it, and he does have a plastic bumper on the back too. So I don't know if it was plastic before, but I don't think it was, so more added plastic, unfortunately. Classic Mattel. I do like the break it gives of this ugly yellow with the white tarp here, but it's unfortunate that it is plastic. You can't really tell, I suppose, from far away. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but when you know it's plastic, you know it's plastic. And he does have a plastic eye plate as well, so just a lot of added plastic to this guy, which is unfortunate. And one of his big features I didn't even mention yet is his big old eyeglasses here. Not very often we get diecast cars with eyeglasses. Nice to see. Like I said, they changed his expression. It's gonna be a little hard to tell though, just because it's blocked by the glasses, of course. It looks like they spread out his eyes way too much, in my opinion. They're way too spread out. And they put like a hump to his eyelids there, rather than, they were more like sharped before, which I think looked better. Now it's finally time to compare this monstrosity here, that is somehow Mel Dorado, to the original Chinese-made Mel Dorado diecast from Mattel. Now I'm not really saying that this one is perfect. I don't think it's completely accurate with the paint color, but I mean, it's probably as good as we can really ask for. You know, you can't ask for the perfect color every time, because the lighting does change the color sometimes, so it's not always Mattel's fault. But this is. This is just Mattel being stupid, I think. I don't even know how they came up with that yellow color. But, yeah, they are the same mold, like the same model, of course. Not the exact same mold, though, like I was talking about. They're the same length, the same height, all that really is the same. But on the front end of things, it is a little bit different. Like I said, on this new Thailand-made variant, the entire front end, not the side headlights, but all like the gray headlights there, the little orange amber lights, the mouth, basically everything in gray here, and the grille, of course, too, and the bumper, that is all plastic. Now this one, only the bottom bumper is actually plastic, as you can tell. His mouth, you can actually see the crack there. And that was very common to do that, like around 10 years ago or so, 2011 type of era, right around when Cars 2 was coming out. This is obviously from that original line of diecast from Cars 2, so it makes sense that he has that. And that is Mattel cheaping out, and it doesn't really make sense to do it for cars like this, because the only really advantage to that would be, for them, of course, Mattel, would to be, you know, it's cheaper, you don't have to change the entire model when you want to change an expression for two cars that share the same model. It would make, you know, it makes sense, obviously. I understand why they did it. Does it look good? No, but it makes sense. But for a car like Mel Dorado, that will never probably have a new variant, at least not in the mouth. Like, you never have to change his expression, really. They did, but they didn't really have to. So it just didn't really make sense to why he had a mouth plate. Like, I understand from McQueen, Maynard, like, popular cars that have a lot of expressions often, it makes sense for, but not really Mel Dorado so much. Both of the wheels are a little different though, a little bit more crispy on the Thailand one. You can definitely see the outline of the white walls more. So, kind of an upgrade there. They usually do pretty good on the wheels. Sometimes they're a bit too flat, I find. Like I was talking about, the whole tarp part on top, all that white there, all plastic now. Before, you can actually feel it's metal, and there's no crack. Like, this is an evident crack. You can just see, of course, too, the plasticky look to it. Looks to be the same width. Yeah, the same width for the most part, I would say. They didn't change that up, which is good. The license plate, still fishbowl. Glad they didn't change it. Still got that Cadillac logo. I just find it looks so much better and so much more realistic and accurate on this Mel Dorado here. But, yeah, there's not a ton of differences other than the main obvious one. Color, of course, and the expression. The expressions are pretty different as well. I'll zoom in there to see. Of course, this one here on the left, you can definitely see a little bit of hump there to the eyelids. A little dusty in there. But it just looks more, he looks more like he has more life to him, I would say. It looks more like his actual character in Cars 2. He's kind of a bit stern in the movie. But this humped version of his eyelids, I don't really care for it all that much, because I feel like it doesn't really look like him all that much. And his actual eyeballs are way too far apart, for sure. They are connected, though they're non-removable, the glasses. You can see they're connected there, and on the side view mirrors. They're in there pretty good, though. They shouldn't really fall off. Now, one thing I forgot to show you guys is the base of Mel Dorado. And you can see there's two massive holes in the base. Do not ask me why, because I really don't know. I actually just realized this just a week ago or so. I was looking at him in the package. I was wondering, I've had him in here for a while. Should I open this guy? Or should I just you know, because I could do a nice review, nice comparison, because I have the original. And I ultimately decided to, of course, but I did not realize beforehand he had 2 massive holes in the base. That's so weird. So weird. It's actually added plastic from Mattel, so I don't understand why they did that. Maybe somehow it holds the glasses in better, like on the side? I have no idea. Mattel makes some really weird decisions, though, with some cars made in Thailand, though, you can see. And the date stamp is R13A, which means he was made in the 13th week of 2022, so he was still made in 2022. That is when he was released. And here's the original one. Obviously, doesn't have those holes for some... Well, I mean, it makes sense. He shouldn't have holes in his base. It does not make sense to have those, but for some reason they added it for Thailand. But his date stamp on this one, the original one, is 3121, meaning he was made. I know how to read these perfect, though. I'm pretty sure this means the 312th day of 2011. That's what that means, I believe. That is how you read a date stamp. The first 3 numbers mean the day. The last number means the last digit of what year it was. So sometimes it can get, you know, a bit confusing. If they both say 8, technically it could mean 2018 or 2008, but you kind of just have to look at the car and know when it was made, because obviously they switched their factories to Thailand in 2018 or 2019, kind of both those years. But yeah, this Mel Dorado is superior to that one over there. I do have another car, of course, I want to compare him to. And that is Tex Dinoco. I don't have the Thailand version of him, just the Chinese one. Pretty well the same car, but not the exact same. Of course, Mel has like added headlights here on the side. He's more rigid, where you can kind of like see Tex's defined bumper there. And they're not the same car. If you look on the base, it says he's a Cadillac Coupe Villa. I don't know why they put an at sign like that. I don't think that's actually how you spell it. I think that's how you say it. I've never heard of a Cadillac Coupe Villa, but they're obviously very similar. And they're both made from Cadillac. I assume around the same time as well. And Tex obviously has his entire top section as a tarp. And it's like a cow print, which is cool. But cows don't really exist in the world of cars, so begs the question, what is this? But yeah, obviously that could probably turn into a convertible, I'd assume, if Tex, you know, didn't have his brain in there, which he probably does. But China just makes cars so much better. Look at those rims. You can actually see reflections in it. With these ones, you know, they look a bit cheaper. Sometimes Thailand cheaps out, and sometimes they really surprise you, and they do a really good job. Like with Mater, they actually added a ton of metal to him, which is weird because he gets released all the time, so you'd think they wouldn't do that, but they did. I don't know. They surprise you sometimes, and they make some really good cars, but then a lot of other times, they're not so good. But anyways, yeah, let's talk a little about Mel Dorado's character in the show. Of course, we know he's a talk show host, and he actually has Miles Axlerod, the creator of All in All, the alternative fuel, in 2011's Cars 2. He had some guest star on his show, The Mel Dorado Show. And basically, just to talk about his new World Grand Prix event that they're doing, obviously, which, you know, that's the majority of the plot for Cars 2. It all kind of starts with Mel Dorado. So, essentially, if the Mel Dorado Show wasn't in Cars 2 at the beginning, Queen probably would have never attended the World Grand Prix. Cars 2 wouldn't happen as we know it, of course. So, it's weird to think of it that way. Mel Dorado essentially made Cars 2 happen. So he is a pretty cool character for that, I think. He also had Francesco Bernoulli guest star on his show, of course. I kind of think of Mel Dorado kind of like Jimmy Fallon in a way. You know, a talk show host in that sense. But I don't think Mel Dorado is as much of a comedian as Jimmy Fallon is, probably. I don't really know, though. We don't know much about him, to be honest, other than that he hosts the Mel Dorado Show. But anyways, let's put the original Mel Dorado back there now. Just, he's a sight for sore eyes compared to this monstrosity here. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Because I know a lot of people, or a handful of people, do actually prefer this new variant, which I find hard to believe. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. And hopefully we'll be able to do some more Cars 2 reviews coming soon on the channel. I'll see y'all next time on the Cars Garage.